of the people.
Well, before we continue with our chat about the EFF, and I still want to talk about the party a little bit more there, we are in Cape Town. You're watching Western Cape Premier DA leader Helen Zille about to cast her vote. We know earlier she had actually opted not to jump the queue. She said she was going to stand in the queue when she arrived there like everybody else, every other Cape Townian who'd been queuing since early this morning. She stood in the queue and we've had to wait about 20 or 30 minutes for her to cast her vote. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We've got Paula Charles standing by there. And Paula, just give us a sense of exactly what is sort of happening there, all the attention on Helen Zille at the moment. All right, Paula Charles obviously just positioning herself so she can get Helen Zille. They're going through the motions, but as we can see, Helen Zille dressed in purple today. We were all wondering what she would be wearing because the focus, as much as it has been on Helen Zille's campaign and what she's actually been saying, has been on what she's been wearing during the run-up to this election. So she's gone there first to the first table, and this is happening in Rosebank in Cape Town. That's where she is casting her vote this morning together with her husband. And just speaking to Paula Charles a little earlier, she had been there since early this morning, since before those polling stations had opened. A lot of students there talking about things that might affect them, saying that what would determine their vote would be things like jobs, and that we know has been one of the major focuses of the DA campaign this time around. So Helen Zille completing that first step there at this polling station, moving on to the next table. And we'll come back to our discussion, Stephen, about the EFF as well, still talking about them. But while we have Helen Zille in picture there, and let's just talk a little bit more about Helen Zille being quite confident that the Western Cape is going to stay firmly in her grasp this year. Can we rest assured that that is going to happen? All indications?
Well, the only indications we have are the by-elections. That there have been quite a lot of by-elections in the Western Cape, and they do suggest that the DA will hold the Western Cape because, in fact, in their traditional areas, their vote has been increasing. There's a bit of a misapprehension about this. I mean, some people claim they're taking votes away from the ANC in the townships, in the Black African townships, and they're not. But that they don't need that to win. So I think that we are looking at the DA retaining the Western Cape. But I don't think that the opposition is really going to have a share in government in any of the other 8 provinces.
Sipho, your thoughts on the DA and just what it's been doing in the Western Cape, and a lot of people on the ground saying when it comes to Gauteng, saying we'd like to see some change in Gauteng, and that kind of sends the subliminal message saying, you know, it might be nice if the DA were to also come to Gauteng. Do you see them making any progress in Gauteng as well if they were to get it?
Well, if you look at their campaigning, they seem to have invested a lot of energy and time and money on Gauteng, and almost that also suggests a party that is confident in the sense of saying, in the Western Cape we have already consolidated our space. But what has been for me really unfortunate about the DS campaign, it has been more negative, but I also think in a certain sense also misdirected. They had chosen to build their whole campaign around Jacob Zuma and Nkandla. And whereas the ANC, what it has done, which also has done very poorly, it has not engaged largely at the media level also to challenge some of the assertions that are made by the DA. But when the party start becoming almost, for me, a bit dishonest, when you know, for instance, in Nkandla, was not something that, it was something that the state had to do in terms of the upgrades. But then you go and say somebody stole them. I mean, stealing.
You're talking about the SMS.
Yeah, SMS. You should know that really you are trying too hard. I have no problem in differing with people, but at least there should be respectability in how you project yourself. And I think they did damage because some people were put off by what appears to be an element of desperation.
All right, well, let's go back there. Thank you very much, Sipho. Let's go back there now. And we've got Paula Charles, who's about to speak to Helen Zille, who's just cast her vote in Rosebank in Cape Town. Paula.
Premier Helen Zille, no surprise who your vote went to.
Well, I was in the ballot box for so long, not because I was having difficulty in deciding who to vote for. I know who I voted for.
So why did you choose to stand in the queue instead of skipping it like many politicians?
Well, I believe that if you live in a society where the rule of law matters and the DA really believes in the rule of law, then politicians must be the first to set an example. They must be the first to abide by the law, whether it's the rules of the road or whether it's the rules of queuing.
Now, you've crisscrossed the country over the past couple of months. It's been a hard slog. Did you have a sense of relief there when you dropped those ballots?
Well, you know, it's not over till the fat lady sings. And so I've dropped that ballot, but now I'm going off around the country again to make sure that people are dropping their ballots.
And then finally, how do you feel the official opposition is going to do in these elections, and especially in your province where you are currently the Premier?
I hope the DA will grow in every single province. I hope we will become the official opposition in some provinces where we haven't yet been the official opposition. And I hope that we will take one big step closer to being the national government.
Fantastic. So now the focus at 9 p.m. tonight will shift to those numbers coming in. Any predictions on or hopeful numbers that you're looking at?
Well, I love the first numbers that roll in because they tend to come from DA strongholds, and we are for the first while always winning the election, which is a fabulous feeling. And I hope it lasts a lot longer in this time. And the DA is the only party that has grown in every single national election since 1994. And while I don't like predictions, I would predict that that will be repeated this time.
Thank you. Premier Helen Zille.
Know more. ENCA.com